All right, we've got the gang back together here. The reunion show, Horseplayers reunion show on Thursday Night Live. Really excited about this one. Let me turn that audio off first. Guys, welcome to the show. Dan Torchman here. As you can see, Lee Davis, Pete Rotondo Sr., Pete Jr., Mike Beychok, Matt Bernier, the whole team back together. Where do we start? Obviously, I got to start to the two guys right next to me. Pete, Lee, what's going on? Where are you? And what kind of memories did that video just bring back?
Well, we looked much younger 7 years ago. Although
I look the same.
No, you're right. Yeah, he still looks 75. But anyway, it brings back a lot of memories. We had a great time doing it, and we met a lot of good people on the show. The cast members were great, and I wish we could get a second season. But I guess we weren't as popular as Snooki on, Jersey Shore. But we gave it our best shot anyway.
Yeah, we're hanging out at my house. This is in my house. So Peter came over to my house. So this is where we watch the races now during this whole pandemic thing. So we come here, we handicap, and we bet and watch the races here in my house.
Nice. I noticed you're not social distancing. I guess you've both been.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Mask off here. Like blinkers on, blinkers off. Mask off here in the men's cave here, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So I was negative. He was negative. So we're good. So
congrats are in order for Pete Jr. For those who don't know, newlywed, now married man. Pete, how you doing out there?
Good. Just got back to Saratoga today, and then I'm headed down to the city tomorrow. Gonna mask up, get on the Amtrak. Dad's picking me up at Penn Station, and we got Father's Day weekend, Belmont Stakes weekend, and ready for action.
Very good. Beychok, welcome back. This is we didn't give you much of a break. I think we gave you a week off, and we brought you back on. How you doing?
I'm good. Congrats, Pete, on the wedding. We have two of the five of us here have gotten married in the last year. I think, is that right?
Yeah.
Who's next, Lee?
I guess I'm the only one left. That's
after that, after your America's Best Racing story where you ditched the wife for the Breeders' Cup. I mean, I don't know who would want to marry into that, but it's possible. I mean, somebody for everybody, as they say,
For those of you who don't know what Mike is talking about, we're going to show you the video in a little bit. We will be bringing that back. Matt, we've seen a lot of you too on the ABR videos lately. It's awesome to have you back. What was it like seeing that video there at the Open?
It's kind of hard for me to believe that was 7 years ago at this point. I mean, it doesn't seem like it was nearly that long ago, and it's been a crazy ride ever since. But I wish we could have, I don't even know if it needs to be a full season, but just give us a weekend, have somebody just all around us for, get everybody together and let everybody bounce ideas off each other. But it was a wild ride. And like I said, just 7 years, it doesn't seem like it's been that long.
All right, well, we want to get into some stories that maybe people didn't see on the show. We also want to hear about, kind of what sticks out. And you talked about a relaunch. I mean, there are people who talk about it all the time. They want to see the show back, some version of it, a spinoff, whatever it might be. We also want people to send in questions if you got questions for the gang here. And also should mention, as we're starting, we did reach out to a couple of other cast members who either did not respond or declined to appear. So we could also speculate as to why that is if you guys want to go there, or we can leave that alone. But let's start off. Let's
got to be 100 by now.
Right.
7 years. It was 85. There's got to be 90.
If I'm 71, he's got to be 90.
No.
So are you talking about Conti?
Yeah, of course.
So did you keep in touch with him after the show?
Once in a while. I call him every now and then just to see how he's doing or whatever. But lately I haven't spoken to him. I know his wife passed away not too long ago. So since then, I spoke to him a couple times after that, but then not much lately. But I kept in contact, and I kind of keep in contact with everybody as far as all the cast members. I still speak to Cox and Christian once in a while through social media, and the rest of the guys here, whatever, So I talk to everybody once in a while.
But the greatest thing about Conti was he really thought that T-shirt that he
he made gonna make $1 million.
Lunch, I got a tip for you. Lunch, 12 to 1.
And he made the shirt.
Remember in the scene, I think the first episode, he goes to the girl, the waitress, and she's like looking at him like he's got 3 heads. not even funny.
But he still went and put a shirt on his shirt.
Yes,
which
he sent me a shirt.
the confidence level that he had was amazing.
I know.
Well, my dad's here, and I'm going to put up his comment here because I remember distinctly watching the show with him, and he would always tell me, he would say, "Oh my God, these people are sick. They're just like us. They're the only people I've ever seen just like us. They're absolutely sick, and they have no luck. What's going on?" Do you get that a lot? And was that sort of the comments you guys would get after the shows aired? You kick it around, Pete Jr., if you want to start.
Yeah, always. That was the one episode where I didn't bet the one horse. Then we agreed to bet on him. And I mean, people come up to me still at Saratoga in the backyard. And they're like, "How could you not bet the one? You said you were going to bet the one." I know. You know, the problem with the show at the end of the day is that we lost so much, right? A year later, like Matt won a tournament, Christian won a big one, the Horseplayers World Series. Dad won the qualifier. I mean, it was Beychok won something big. Everybody kind of won big the next year, and it was a little too late. You know, obviously at the end of the day, you need some winning going on.
Yeah,
I remember Christian. You're right. I mean, I think everybody, not me, but other people went on a tear. I mean, I think Christian, as soon as the show went off, he won like the World Series
we were there.
right after. And then somebody else, Cox won a bunch. I mean, it was kind of weird. You know, it was a little, for me, I don't know for the others, but, you know, there was a lot of pressure, you know, on to perform. And, you know, that horse racing to me is so much psychological. You know, you got to be in the right place, you know, in your mind. So it was tough for me that season for sure.
Speaking of pressure, Matt, I mean, you obviously, you know, cast as the young gun, right, coming in, and not only you surrounded by a bunch of maniacs, just generally speaking, I mean, you had to have felt extra pressure being the young guy, right?
Well, I mean, it was a combination of things. There was extra pressure because I didn't, when I was playing, I didn't have a lot of money to be burning out there. So it was either be right or you're kind of screwed for a little while. But also at the same time, too, it's no different than like when you're going through a losing streak now. The pressure continues to build and build and build. You know, when things are going well, you just roll on with it. And, you know, it feels like you can spot a dime across the room. And then when things aren't going well, it just kind of creeps over your shoulder and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I feel like obviously when there's cameras around, everything just gets magnified by 10, whether it should or shouldn't. I think it does. I agree with Mike 100%. I know I felt it. I don't know if everybody else did. Mike just alluded to the fact that he did, but you're right. And then the minute it was over, I mean, it felt like the following year, everybody was firing left and right. So, you know, it's just one of those things, unfortunately, tough timing, but there's always pressure involved, I think, with anything, especially when you put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. What we have a question here from CJ Hoyt asking about moments of glory here. Do you remember one moment that stands out where it's like, all right, we actually belong to be on this show? We actually nailed one here. Was there one moment that stands out?
I mean, for me, I remember one of the producers, Andrew Yex, who's a great guy. He was just super fun with all of us. After the Derby, when Orb won, Pete cashed a bunch of stuff. I had the future ticket on him. And he came up to me, and it was almost like the worst thing he could have said to me. He was like, you know, you're kind of like a savant, huh? I go, no. Are you out of your mind? No. And clearly, obviously, as time has gone on, that's not the case. But it was just... At that point, I at least felt like, okay, well, maybe there's going to be something to this show. We're not all going to be losers, and unfortunately, we all ended up being losers.
With me, it was definitely 100% when we were in New Orleans. Because honestly, and I tell people this all the time, I honestly felt something changed after the Mama Shoon voodoo. And it so happened that people say, was that real? You know, we qualified after that, whether it was, you know, 100 people in a tournament or not. Legitimately, we couldn't qualify, and then we got cleansed, Mama Shoon, the whole 9 yards, and then we qualified.
The viewers that watching home could have thought that this was all fixed, but it is true.
Right.
We got the league qualified the next day. I mean, the place, the priestess, the voodoo priestess. I still can't get over it. When we were doing that ceremony where we're chanting and they're throwing liquid in our faces.
With the arms out.
Yeah, I've seen the lady, the priestess, pull down my son's pants and smoke a cigar smoke down his butt. And I'm seeing the cracker was behind. And I hadn't seen it since he was 2 years old. It was a very unsightly thing. I mean, with all due respect.
But yeah, that was the turning point as far as I'm concerned. As when I finally believed it's going to happen. Now it's going to happen. But
And this tourism message brought to you by Team Rotondo, where you can see your son's crack in New Orleans in the first quarter. We're back open for business, baby.
But you said it's like it's a real thing. That really happened. We went there, luck changed, all the rest of it. Yeah, it was part of a storyline. People always wonder, like, how much with reality TV do they tell you to do and it's staged and this and that? Would you give me a percentage? What percentage of it was completely natural and what percentage was staged?
I would say 90% of it was real, and the other 10% they tried to make us do what they wanted, and we didn't do it.
They said root the horse in.
They wanted us to root a horse in while the race wasn't going on, and I go, we can't do that. It doesn't work that way. And then finally we got them to do it the way we wanted to. So out of all the reality shows, Oz was the most legitimate real.
And I remember when I tried to, so to speak, act. My son says, "Dad," put me all on the side. You're better when you're yourself. Don't act. You're not an actor. You know what I mean?
I would ruin those scenes. I'd be like, he's acting.
Oh God, you got it.
But I would say that's probably right. 90-10, maybe a little 80-20. And the thing is, I think you always think, I guess this, but the things they didn't show.
Oh,
that they should have shown.
Well, let's hear about that. Give us some stories they didn't show. Tell us about it.
We would go out to dinner, and if there was a camera at dinner with most of us here and some others, it would have been a show in and of itself. Just the stories and the arguments and the ears flopping story. I mean, the ears was one of the greatest. That was at the Preakness, I think, when we, horses in their ears, and some people believe in their ears.
No, Bruno, forget about it. He said Orb's going to the lead. I saw his ears in the workout tonight. I went crazy. I said, Bruno, the horse is closing. I don't care what his ears are doing. I don't care if I'm dragging him by his ears. The horse is not going to the lead, and we went. That was a crazy dinner. You're right, Mike. But
there was some. I don't know why they didn't play this up a little more. I think in later reality shows they tend to play up the confrontations between different people. Like some people don't like some people, and some people like some people, and the arguments and stuff. And they didn't really want to show any of that. But there was some real, there was some real this in the show
between the actual cast members, between everybody in it.
Oh yeah.
Tell us more.
No, I mean, you saw some of it. I mean, the Christian stuff at Saratoga, but between he and I was kind of a little bit conjured up. I mean, a little bit. Not, there was some. Yeah, there was a little bit of consternation there, but there's just some other. It could have gotten a little more coverage, let's say.
That's interesting, because I think the perception of most people of reality TV is that they would, if anything, blow that stuff up. They would make it. They would definitely want to highlight that. So it's interesting that they sort of decided no. That's not part of the storyline here. I don't know.
They were trying to focus more on the actual. They wanted to do more into the racing and the handicapping and whatever, and less on the lifestyle, which at the end of the day is probably why it didn't go as far as it did. Because they shut up. I know Dad's chomping at the bit to tell the fishing story. So.
Oh yeah, that is the best story of all time. I couldn't believe it didn't make the cut. This is the deal. Peter's at the airport. He calls me up on the phone and says, "Dad, I got this. I want to tell you this for the longest time. Since I'm a kid, you're taking me to Gulfstream Park every year, at the Ramada Inn, at the swimming pool. I never saw sand. I never saw a beach. And I'm going to get even with you now." I'm really upset and shocked that he's saying this. He says, "So I hired a deep sea fishing boat, and you're going out there and you're going to learn how to fish." And I says, "Peter, I can't even swim. God forbid I fall off the boat." So what we did was we went to the store. We bought swimmies.
Right.
Lee's on the boat with me, puts the swimmies on me. So I got the swimmies. So now we got a captain on a boat with a white beard, the whole bit. And now he's teaching me how to throw out the line.
Yeah, casting the line.
Casting the line. Okay. Casting the line, and then hopefully you get a fish and you reel it in. So now I cast the damn thing out there, and all of a sudden, I feel something big, and I says, I think I got jaws over here. Lee, I'm not strong enough. Help me pull it in. And Lee's helping me roll it in, reel it in. And all of a sudden, the thing comes up, and it's a mackerel about this big. It was well done and funny, and it should have been on the show. But like Boy said, they're trying to do stuff with horse racing. They didn't care about our personal lives, which that would have made it real. Right. I think it would have picked up seasons if they got us to do, like Mike says, a few stuff and things on our own. Whatever.
Well, how did it, Pete? You said you could kind of get into how the show actually came together. Who did they reach out to first? How did all this even happen?
So there's two parallel paths, right? So one started someone reached out to Brian Pettigrew, who worked for the ABR back in the day, and they said they want to do a horse racing show, and they brought them to the NHC. So this production company shows up, and and Brian, of course, I know forever. He comes to me, said, "Who do you want? We need to mic up some people." So I was like, "Well, we'll mic up," and then we mic'd up a couple others, and I don't even remember exactly who. Long story short, that's the year that Beychok won the $1 million, and we were sitting with him. So they got all of that for this amazing sizzle reel.
That's awesome.
And now they pitched it to a bunch of people. The Esquire Network, which had not even been launched yet, bought it. They then that production company went and shot the pilot with us, and then also at the Breeders' Cup. And long story short, they wind up getting fired, and they get hired by the same production company that did Jockeys, which again, coincidentally, I had met at the Eclipse Awards and hooked them up with Dad and Lee. And no one even really knows this, but Dad and Lee shot a pilot called The Saints of Staten Island.
Oh my God.
That never aired.
I got it. That was
the same production company that did that wound up getting the gig from Esquire to shoot Horseplayers.
That's phenomenal.
And then I got Keith Chamblin involved, and we did the NHC tour and the whole thing. But that's how it began. There was a lot of stuff going back and forth, and they all like intertwined at the same time.
That's good. Do you think if Beychok hadn't won that year and they didn't capture that footage, do you think they would just moved on? They would say, hey, we don't have enough here? You think that was it?
I'm not sure. It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it was so exciting when he won. I mean, and we didn't know Mike either. We just met him that weekend. We just sat next to us.
I mean, that's a funny story too. I mean, I came down that day. Y'all had the table reserved. I was trying to sit at the table next to him, and it was just a bad situation. I mean, they had some real characters at that table, and they got in a fight about somebody's wife in a wheelchair, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I got to get out of here because there ain't no fucking way that I can't win if these people are going crazy over here. And I looked over to my left, and there was a reserve sign, and I think it was either Lee or Pete Sr. there, and I was like, do you mind if I sit here? And they were like, no, come on and sit. And I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, there's no question in my mind that I would not have won the contest if it wouldn't have been you three guys sitting at that table. Because again, for me, and I'm not kidding, y'all are laughing, but I'm not kidding. For me, it's psychological, and there's no way in the world that I would have survived sitting at that other table with those crazy people. Y'all were great table mates. Y'all never talked. We rooted each other and all that. It was a perfect.
No one believed you that we
never talked,
and that we're not crazy.
They were good, Pete. They were good table mates. I mean, they talked. They weren't. They rooted a little bit, kind of loud, but.
Were they whipping the program even there the first time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was the best footage too, right? I mean, people think of the show, they think of you guys going nuts whipping the program. I mean, it's become
the greatest whip of all time in the history of whips for $1 million. There's no bet. It'll never be. Nobody will ever be able to surpass that.
Do you realize it's an art form to whip properly, to root, and get the paper rolled up, and tap it against your knee, get a right amount of paper. If it's too thick, it's no good because it doesn't sound right. You gotta have the right amount.
And we take credit for believing it. We're sick enough to believe that without us, Beychok doesn't get up.
I just gave you the credit.
No chance he wins without us.
No chance.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'll give you the last button on that is, Dad was doing it for years with my grandfather, and then I got involved. And back when my gramps was alive, there'd be three of us lined up in simultaneously doing that.
Like the Philharmonic Orchestra. That's what it was like.
Right. It's not made up. It's the way we root. It's always been that way. People think it's put on, as you know. Yes. Thank you, Dennis Trusty. And the bottom line is, it is, and it's a real thing. We don't root if we're not alive. We keep our mouth shut,
Right.
and that's what happened with the show. But anyway, that's bottom line. It's a real thing, and it's also that's how you emote.
Yeah. The question is, do you actually believe? Like, is it just because it's routine, it makes you feel good, or do you believe it actually? You're sending energy to the horse.
Oh yeah, definitely sending energy to the
Without
horse.
a doubt.
One time I was down the track. I was whipping in my friend's horse. God rest his soul, Tony Shimetta. He had a 70-1 shot. We had a big bet on him, believe it or not, at Aqueduct. And I'm whipping. I go, stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there. My mother says, "You got it, Pete," and she hugged me. And the horse just got nipped at the wire. Says, "Ma, I love you and everything. Don't ever touch me when I'm in a full whip. With 70 yards to go. You gotta wait till they press the finish line."
Yes, the answer
Don't
is
ever touch me. That's fine.
Matt, you're going to tell me you weren't terrified the first time you met these guys?
No, so I mean, honestly, I tell people, I met Pete Jr. probably 3 days before the Derby there in 13. You look back now, I'm mortified of the outfit that I had on Millionaires Row at Churchill Downs. I had a oversized golf shirt on, a rain jacket because it was raining buckets, and I just got a terrible outfit on. And we're watching the Derby from that position out there on the rail. And I couldn't see anything. I didn't know where Orb was. I couldn't, that's all I really cared about at that point. He had a bunch of different things going on, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, we got all the way down here and the horse isn't going to run. Again, I have no idea what's happening. And like I said, I've known him for maybe 48, 72 hours. And he whacks me in the leg. And I just hit something in my office here. And he goes, "We're running." And I'm going, where? I can't see anything. And all of a sudden the chicklet up on the board makes this giant, it's almost like a car just driving around the rest of the field. And then I start losing it, and he starts beating the hell out of me with this paper. And I mean, if you hadn't known any better, if I didn't have any action, I would have been like, "Who is this guy? He's a nut job." But at that point, I didn't care. I was saying, I started losing my mind too. And then I just remember when the horse won, he said something, and I leaned over and I was like, I think I'm going to get sick at this point. The whole thing was nuts. And you're right. I mean, look, I didn't get to meet Pete Sr. and Lee until 2 weeks later in Baltimore, because they intentionally kept us all, kind of like sequestered from one another. There was only so much crossover. So I remember I first met them. We were down on the pier in kind of downtown area. And I don't remember what it was. They had said something, and I was like, well, "This is this is going to be a ride." And sure enough, here we are 7 years later.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, obviously, I think in a lot of ways, I mean, it gave all of you guys exposure. But Matt, I think you in particular, I mean, you went from there. Then we saw you at DRF, and you started appearing on TV. So, I mean, clearly, I mean, it opened a lot of doors for you.
Yeah, I mean, I've done other podcasts and people have asked questions about all that sort of stuff. And I mean, without the show, none of this happens. I mean, let's just be honest. There's no, without the connections being made through the show, but I mean, without the show to begin with, none of this stuff happens for me. So, and I know there are so many people that were involved with, kind of the behind the scenes stuff to even ask me to be a part of the whole thing. The list is too long to sort of acknowledge, but I say between those people and all of these folks that were on the show, I mean, I hope they recognize it, that without any of them, or all of them, I should say, none of this stuff happens for me. So you will never hear me say a bad word about anyone that was involved with it. I love all these guys. I mean, they've all been instrumental as far as my life in general is concerned.
We got a question here. I don't remember this particular scene, but I'm assuming you guys will. John Banks, the bridge jumper scene. Did the heavily bet horse actually finish out of the money, or did they just act like it did for the sake of the TV
now, look,
show?
I got to pipe in here first, okay? This is out at Del Mar, right? And Comet of the Top is running. Comet of the Top is, if he doesn't make the lead, he's not winning. Plain and simple. And he was just one of those horses. And I go, if he doesn't make the front, he's probably not going to win. Maybe he will. You never know. And I looked down and I saw that he had something stupid, like $200,000 bet the show on him. And I turned to, I don't know if it was, I think it was Cox. And then Cox, or it was Mike, one of the two. You can pick it up.
It was me. Yeah.
And then these guys were both in the contest. And I was doing sort of the shadowed version of it because I didn't have the cash to play along. I played at a much smaller increment. And then that whole scene kind of played out that way. And yeah, Come to the Top, I think, finished last or fourth in a 5-horse field. He was off the board though. So all that was legitimate. But I just remember seeing it all happen and then seeing the whole thing unfold and then reliving it on TV. But yeah, that was, I like these guys said, I mean, I would say 85-90% of what you saw was, I mean, as far as the racing is concerned, it was all legitimate. You know, some of the other little stuff amongst ourselves, maybe a couple little tweaks here and there, but yeah, all that was legitimate.
Interesting. So we talked about Mike. We talked about some of the relationships in the show, and also in having you on the show before, it strikes me that you're somebody who's won the grand prize, right? You've been at the top at the NHC, but what strikes me is that you often say I'm interested in hearing more about that. You're a guy who's always learning and always listening. Did you have that experience in the show? I mean, did you learn from either the other people on the show, or was there anything that you just came away with that you didn't come into the show with?
No, it was just, I didn't really learn. I mean, we talked some about our hand, but it was a competition, so don't forget that, we're all big competitors. And so we weren't ready to give out if we had any, trade secrets,
right.
So we didn't really share any of that information or we talked a little bit about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm one of the lucky guys to have a day, or two days and win the contest. I'm not as good of I've said this, I'm not as good of a handicapper as probably most of the people on the show, were, and certainly not now. So I'm just always looking to try to figure out something new. There's times when I think I've had edges, for a year or so, and I think those things have kind of gotten taken away, and we've kind of discussed some of that. I think some of the new edges that are out there might lie in, more of trips. And so, I'm just always looking for something new, just dabbling in it, because I'm really not very good at it.
But one thing I could say is when none of us had a horse in the race, say Mike had a horse in the race and we had no bet in that race, because you didn't have to bet every race in the tournament, we would always root for the guy who's got a bet going.
Right.
You know what I mean? We didn't compare notes like he said, but when right before the race, you got anything here? No, I didn't bet. Yes, I did bet. Whatever.
I always root against Conti.
You always root against
I was constantly picking chalks. I was getting annoyed. So like, I would root against him when he won. I became friendly.
Yeah.
I became friendly with the guy, but in the beginning, it was like he's picking all these favorites. I'm going, what is this guy doing? You know what I mean? Whatever. Yeah.
with the microphone, with the magnifying glass. Yeah, unbelievable.
So Shona chiming in here. We mentioned Pete is recently married. Shona wants to know what's up with the shirt, but this actually brings up a good question, and that is, who is the best and worst dressed person on the show? Let's go around the room.
Well, Matt was the worst dressed in the beginning. He became maybe the best after that, but in the beginning, we had to take him to a place to get him.
Listen to me. His wife brought him to a new level. Without his wife,
no question,
he's nowhere. No. We were even going to ask him to come to Macy's with us and go shopping. We know the people at the events department where they got you some discounts and stuff. We had coupons and everything.
Right,
but you were really looking best. The best looking guy, on the show, obviously.
But the worst dressed.
But the worst dressed.
That's looking worse.
I have no rebuttal to that. They're right.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this? No.
It's true. Well, I mean, what happened was before the pilot, right? So it's funny story. Nobody even really realized. Not that who cares really, but it's part of this story. The idea that we just shot the pilot, and I was getting dressed, and I found this purple bow tie that was there that we give the servers at Breeders' Cup and in all of our hospitality areas or anywhere that's Breeders' Cup. You'll notice everyone's got a purple bow tie. They're probably, Amy Lasky buys them for like 13 cents a pop. So I had one. I'm like, I'm going with the shtick, because I knew they was going to bother my father and he would say something and then it would be a whole storyline. So I wore it. I'm again teeing it up like it was nothing, right? Boom. He went off like, how could you wear the bow tie? You look like such a...
Why would you want to look like Pee Wee Herman? I mean, why? Why would you do that? Meanwhile, a lot of girls said you
in California.
Obviously. So that was the shtick. Then it became like shtick that I had to continue on with, with the whole thing. And then the get hot, stay hot has always been our thing. And that was I still
have my get hot, stay hot tie.
Nice. I gave you that right. It was up.
And I went bow tie for the Breeders' Cup too.
That's right.
Because of you.
But I mean, yeah. So Matt was the worst. I guess I was the best. Christian, I mean, he's a disaster. I think if you really think about it.
And Conti was the most consistent.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
He would always wear the black shirt, basically.
Yeah, with the long black hair.
I'll tell you what, if there was a form for outfits, I mean, John was consistent with that 78 buyer. I mean, you knew you were going to get it like clockwork, like clockwork. Sometimes good enough, sometimes not, but 78 done.
He was needed though. I mean, everybody was extra, and then there was him. He was just there. You know, it was a good balance. I think you needed that.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. I mean, for me, the whole thing was I kind of got ushered around to all of these guys at different points throughout it. And I've joked about it, but I mean, there's truth to it where, you know, day of there wasn't necessarily like these guys were alluding to. There wasn't really note sharing or anything like that. But I feel like I learned for some little different pieces from each one of these guys. And I mean, it was kind of wild for me. I've joked and called it like the college education that's really not available. I mean, it was just one of those things where, like everything for me at this point in my life, has just kind of been right place at the right time. And, you know, John offered little pieces. He tried to get me to start using the magnifying glass and the paper form still. But, you know, I tried to show him the difference between, you know, I mean, it's at the time it was 2013. I've got an iPad out. He's like, no, get that out of here. Don't want any part of that. I'm good doing my thing. Christian, honestly, was one of the biggest people to impart sort of the value aspect of everything for me. And I mean, that sort of, you know, I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to say, I think he's as good as anyone there is playing as far as money and management is concerned. And I think that, again, I mean, from a day-to-day standpoint, that's about as important a piece to the entire thing as you're going to find. But I learned something from all these different guys, and it was wild just to kind of, you know, to take one of, you know, Mike. I think Mike was the one that even said it. It's kind of like a gumbo. You know, you just put just a little bit of everything comes together. You got to stir it up, and whatever it spits out, it spits out. That's what you're working with.
Now, we had somebody ask about if anyone embraced the Hollywood lifestyle. We've also heard some allusions to maybe having, you know, a fan club, you know, based on the fact that, you know, you're good-looking guys on a TV show, so you have people around you. But we've heard that Lee didn't attract quite as many from the show, partially because of the video that I'm about to show you. If you haven't seen this video, sit back, enjoy.
The moment I knew I was a racing fan, a real fan, was 1998 Breeders' Cup. It was a 10-year anniversary of my wedding. I was supposed to go to Aruba with my wife. She had plans to go to Aruba. We were going to leave on Friday, and I said, I can't leave on Friday. The Breeders' Cup Saturday. Can we leave on Sunday? She said, no, I want to leave on Friday. It's more romantic. It's our 10-year anniversary Saturday. I want to be there in Aruba for that. Now, the boys were all going to Atlantic City. Peter Jr., Peter Sr. We had a suite, limos, the whole 9 yards. We're going down. We're going to play the Pick Six. I was all excited. So my wife said, well, you're going to have to make a decision. It's neither me or the horses. And went to Atlantic City. We hit the Pick Six, 35,000. I was all excited. And a year later, I was divorced. That's when I know.
That is so funny.
What do you, Lee?
That is just so funny.
Did you leave anything out? That's the story.
Well, no, not really. I remember that night. Yeah,
I mean, he was depressed because he had to go home now, because he still had to go home.
Yeah.
And you said you just won a lot of money and you're not happy because you had to go see your wife.
Yeah, and I bought tickets to a play on Broadway. Like, I tried to do the right thing
The week before.
Right, I tried to do the right thing to, like, ease the pain of what was, you know, it was an important day. Listen, I got married on Breeders' Cup Day.
That was your problem.
But I thought I was doing the right thing. Yeah. Like, I'm showing you how I'll share. I'm willing to give up a Breeders' Cup. And meanwhile, I should have never.
Look at the camera.
I knew what it was. She knew what it was. I knew what it was. But I says, you know what? You're more important than the horse. At that point,
you were frauding out.
Even then, I frauded out. And then, you know, whatever. At the end of the day.
Oh, God.
But we're still good friends to this day. And we stay in touch with each other. And my kids turned out great. She's a good person. And whatever it is, it is. I mean, you know, I'm sure if it wasn't the horse racing, it would have been something. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, let's make a little bit of a transition into this weekend. Talk about the Belmont Stakes. Before I do, is there an anecdote? Is there a story? Anything that I left out that you want to get in on this show? Is there anything that anybody wants to get?
Say to pivot off the Lee's story, the opposite of that story would be Matt, where he met his wife while filming at the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, the funniest part about that is I'd had a couple of beverages during the day, and by the time her and two of her friends came through, I thought there were like 6 or 7. Apparently, it was only 2 or 3 of them, and she still doesn't let me forget about that. So, and look, we didn't even really get together until a year later when I moved down to the city for work and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about the total, the flip side of that coin, Belmont Stakes 2013. I was the only person in the world that didn't have Palace Mouse. All these guys had Palace Mouse. I was the only dummy that had. I had the Godolphin horse. I'm trying to remember the name right now. Who finished 4th? But everybody, Palace Mouse, just jumping off the page. I'm sitting there like a dope. I got nothing going on.
Incidentally, that was one of the only Belmonts in many years that I didn't go to because I was getting married the next day. So a little bit of symmetry there. And by the way, if you didn't see Tom Espinoza's comment here, I mean, potentially, obvious, but so yeah, let's talk Belmont. I tweeted it out earlier because I've seen some of the videos. Pete Sr. been called the king of Belmont. Why? You've got the list in front of you. Do you want to read off some of the winners?
It started 1968 with Stage Door Johnny.
How long could this show's going to go on?
No.
We've only got 18 minutes. 18 minutes.
But I have 22 out of the 52 Belmonts. 22 winners. Stage Door Johnny, Reba Ridge, Secretariat, Bull Forbes, Affirm, Coastal, Conquistador Cielo, Caveat, Bet Twice.
Not going to tell you all of them, though.
Colonial Affair, which my son graduated high school that day. We went to
yes.
I went to his ceremony, and I had $600 in my account, at my OTB account. I put $300 to win on Colonial Affair, bet him with exactas and everything. My son, I had $14 left in the account. So my son says, why don't you bet the horse that you made in the first race, the Derby, the second in the Preakness, and Colonial Affair? P.S. I boxed 3 horses. It came back $19,000, the trifecta. $300 to win on Colonial Affair. It was a big day. I paid for his first year of college at Seton Hall. Not a bad day, right? But my greatest run, though, in the Belmont Stakes was the year 2009, Summer Bird. 2010 followed up with Drosselmeyer, and then this one, Ruler on Ice.
Yeah, the clip they're going to show.
Right.
All right, so let's check it out. This video might look like it's from 1976, but it's actually more recent than that. So here, this is like actual footage before the Belmont Stakes. If I can play it.
You need volume there.
I was going to say, I got no audio.
All right, we can try it again. Hold on one second.
All right.
Bartelli making a guest appearance.
Yeah, Bartello. He's probably watching Bartello.
Dad strikes again.
Exactly.
Figures got DQ'd again. Another photo.
All right, we're re-racking it.
Look at Lee with hair. Doesn't it look better without hair now?
Yeah, Peter made Lee go bald. We went to dinner with Shona and my son and Lee about a year and a half ago. He looked over the table at an Italian restaurant in the city and said, Lee, it's time. Time for what? Time. You got to get rid of whatever's growing on that head. You got to get rid of it. And now he looks like Mr. Clean, or Shrek, as he
Shrek.
Can you hear it? This is the good stuff coming up now.
No, I can't hear
No
it.
audio.
You can't really hear it?
No audio.
And they hear it. And the people hear it.
No, I don't think so.
No.
All right.
That's all right.
Well, anyway,
right.
Joey Bartelli, who's a good friend of ours, and Lee abused me and said he's getting old. How could he pick Ruler on Ice? It's over for him. He had a good run in the Belmont Stakes picking winners, but it's over. I mean,
I couldn't believe that horse won. I still can't believe that horse won.
With Jose Valdivia.
But again,
Jr.
that's at 1.5 miles going 2 turns. What is he going to do at one turn, 1.8 miles? It's not the same. So
yeah, you had a lot of swagger in that video.
22 out of 50. He picks 22 out of 50, and Leah's like, "I prove it to me." All right. I'm with you.
What about Survivor? Survivor was 70-1. That was the biggest price, 71 shot.
You had Sarava at 70 to 1.
Yeah, Ellie had the exacta.
Yeah, I would tell you if he was lying. This is all
no, you believe
I
me.
believe it. Look, I got no reason to go against. It's
a different kind of race. It's not a real race. I mean, it's a real race.
Wow.
It's not a typical handicap race. He's got some kind of like crazy thing in his head.
Well, you know, my favorite quote is, "I see things that average people can't." And I'm trying to be humble, but you know, when you're 22 out of 50 over here, it's tough to be humble.
You know, I was gonna jump into Belmont, but since you mentioned this, and since we didn't have audio, I got one more video I want to play. One more video. The Derby last year.
Oh.
I'll let you give me the story afterwards, but you set it up pretty well in this video that we've got here. This is a couple of minutes. So this is what happened in the Derby last year.
Hi, my name is Peter Rotondo, and I'm going to take you back to the 2019 Kentucky Derby. They're loading. So what happens is I get to Louisville, and I do my homework for the Derby. One night, I think it was on Wednesday night, and I came up with Country House. I looked back at his PPs, and I thought he could run a big race. He moved exactly at the right time. So they break, and I'm watching, and I see a speed duel. I see the speed starting to percolate up top. Maximum Security, I felt he could win or run last. I wasn't exactly sure what he was going to do. He's 6 furlongs and 112 and change. And all of a sudden, Country House is moving. And he's like this. He's still got a hold. He's sweeping now, 5 wide. I'm like, oh my God, he's going right by. And you know, with NBC, they show you that other angle. Now he's second. Looks like he's going right to the lead. All of a sudden, Maximum Security's bouncing around horses. And now we got the lead. Now I'm like, go Flavy! Go Flavy! Go Flavy! I'm literally losing my mind. I remember I was at Churchill going nuts. He's opening up in my head. But no, Maximum Security battling back on the inside. And I'm like, oh my God. So he hung a little bit, or Max just ran his eyeballs out. Anyway, bottom line, Max holds on. There's Country. Now I'm saying, stay second. Because I know I bet Max Country House as like a saver exacta. And also saver trifectas, because they wound up having the horses that ran underneath. So at this point, I'm like, woo! That was a thrill. I got the exact that's coming back like 800 anyway, because 65-1 with Country House. And then all of a sudden, there's an objection. And then I realized what happened. $15,000 try, whole 9 yards. My phone starts lighting up like a Christmas tree. I'm all my friends. Who won $15,000? Who won $20,000? Who won $25,000? And then one guy won $150,000. Anyway, it was the biggest thrill. I think all in, I think all my peeps who sent it to other peeps, probably won $1 million worth of action.
How do you beat that?
No, it was great. I was with Peter in the suite, and I remember Bobby Flay was there, and he kept on saying, they'll never take him down. They've never taken a horse down. I says, Bobby, trust me, they're taking this horse down. Because Lee and I had War of Will. And believe me, War of Will, we're watching our horse, obviously, around the turn. Right. He had a ton of horse.
We thought we were going to win.
We thought we were going to win, and he got banged, and that was it.
And he was finished.
But it all turned out great for my son. And all.
Did you tell me you used Country House on some tickets? No.
No. We were
all over again.
You handicap the horses you make. You don't just start putting other people's horses in just because they're friendly with the owner, or this guy picked it, or that guy. But it wasn't meant to be. Wait a minute. But it wasn't meant to be my day, because my son gives me a ticket right after the race and says, I overheard you said that the 2 in the next race can't lose. He bet a $20 double. Now it's coming back $1,000 if the 2 wins the race. We get
the
back
next race,
10,000.
10,000 we're talking about.
$20
So now the horse is on the inside laying fourth. It's got a ton of horse with Miguel Mania. Swings him 6-7 wide for no reason. Takes the lead. Another horse comes right at the end, and it's a photo. But the camera on the
when they gallop out,
showing the two. And I says, I got him. So my son, he rolls the eyes with me all the time. He goes, I don't know. Lee says, I don't know. I said, put the camera up. They put the one up.
Yeah.
And again, $10,000 by a.
You're also the only person who will ever remember that Derby for the race after the Derby.
Yeah, because it's another photo. This guy runs second more. I know he has 22 Belmont winners, but he's got second for a lifetime.
No, it's
hundreds of thousands of seconds.
Second-itis is an incurable disease. Believe me, and I have it. Believe me.
All right, give me the. I don't want second. Give me the 23rd winner in the Belmont Stakes. Go ahead. Who is it?
I'm going with number 9, Dr. Post with Irad Ortiz Jr., Todd Pletcher. I think I love his comeback race this year. 7 furlongs. He ran a 96 buyer, turn with the 12 post, outside post, which is the number 9 in the 10 horse field tomorrow. He ran in the Unbridled Stakes, I believe. After that, a mile and a 16. He had a little rough trip, but he still won the race. And Pletcher, as we know, is very good with the Belmont. And I think he's going to stay about 5 lengths off the pace. There's a lot of speed in the race. The one, Johnny V's got a gun with the one, and he's coming back in 16 days. That's tough to do. And Jose Ortiz has a speed horse in the race coming from the 6 horse. And I think there's going to be a good enough pace. And I think he's going to make the move coming around the far turn and just win it all.
So on a scale of 1 to 22, how confident are you?
No, it's a mile and an eighth. How can I be confident?
No, so you're putting an asterisk by it, right?
No, man. I mean,
he's on an even playing field with the rest of us now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not a mile and a half.
There's the confidence right out the window.
It's more like fake news, a mile and an eighth. You know what I mean?
Lee, you're the mile and an eighth guy. Who's going to win the race?
I like the bottom horse. Pneumatic, the 10 horse.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the combination. I like the connections. I think he's coming into himself, improving. I know he's a 2-turn horse, but again, he doesn't have that many races, on the board. He'll sit a good trip. The 2 speeds, the 1 and the 6 will go out and set a pace. And he'll see everything that Tiz the Law is going to do. So my point is, if he is good, he'll be a little bit to the outside, a little bit behind Tiz the Law. And he'll be able to make the move before Franco does. And I think that the only problem I have with Dr. Post is I think he's going to be the wise guy horse. So to me, he's going to be overbet. And Pletcher's very good at Belmont, I understand. But I think he'll be overbet. He'll be the wise guy horse. And at 7-2, 4-1, I threw him out completely.
You think he'll be bet down that much?
I'm looking at, I made 10, 8, 2, 1. I think Solo Volante will pick up pieces late, maybe run 3rd or 4th, and Johnny will hang on for 3rd or 4th. So I made 10, 8, 2, 1.
So I mean, you got Tiz the Law second. Pete, you just said you like Dr. Post. I mean, but in your heart of hearts, you really think Tiz the Law is going to lose? I mean, you're telling us how to bet the race.
I'll tell you one thing. I love Jack Knowlton. Saratoga Stable. He's the main owner, and I wish him the best. Believe me. If he wins, I'll be so happy for him. But as a handicapper,
right?
I made the 9.
No, it's fair. That's what all I'm asking. If you're just talking about it from a betting perspective, or what you believe deep down.
I believe that as a bettor, that the 9 horse is going to come up to this race really big, and you can't knock the
Law. I'm not saying he's going to run out of the money.
But I just pick a one horse, Dr. Post, and hoping for the best for Jack.
All right, Mike, what do you say? How do you see it unfolding?
I actually saw Tiz the Law, and a bunch of these guys probably saw Tiz the Law break his maiden at Saratoga, and on that day, I was like, wow, that's really. I mean, the horse is going to be nice. Never knew he was going to be this nice, but he really ran well that day. He should win, but I like a lot Solo Volante. I spent some time with Patrick being Solo Volante, Pete Sr. Put him in your business.
Coming back 10 days.
10 days. I spent some time with Patrick in Saratoga. He's such a nice guy. Andy owns part of it, his daughter. I mean, the horse 10 days to me is old school. I mean, you should know that, Pete. That's old school.
I mean, he wasn't really, I mean, to be fair, he wasn't really hard used, right? I mean, he had the setup and just kind of.
He had a great setup, and he's going to get the same setup. He's going to get the exact same setup. And so I like him a lot. I really do. It's too much.
Let him talk.
Mr. 22.
I can hear you. Let him.
All right, I'm done. I'm on solo. Mr. 22 is not happy with that.
We only heard every third word you said. So please, one more time.
Not fair.
I'm done. Solo volante. Show.
All right, we'll come back to you, Matt. What do you say?
I mean, look, I don't have anything interesting. I think Tiz the Law is the best horse. I think he trips out no matter what the situation. I have no interest in trying to beat him. If you're so inclined to play some sort of an exotic wager, I look, he might be a little bit of a plotter right now, and I'm definitely concerned the fact that it seems like he's plateaued as a 3-year-old. But I've long thought Farmington Road. I think there's something there. I don't know. Maybe he hasn't put it all together, or I mean, look, it's entirely possible he's just not that good. But it feels like he's plateaued a little bit. There's a part of me that hopes they line up early on. If Tapit to win has to go, 4 lefts entry to me is kind of the key to the entire race because. I mean, he has to go. What, are you going to take off and just try to run by everyone? It's not going to work. You have to be aggressive. If those two go, I think Tiz the Law sits that sort of 3-4 path trip just off. I think Manny can say push the button whenever he wants. And if those other horses kind of take the starch out of one another, I think a horse like Farmington Road can come from the back and pick up some pieces. Maybe he can't get second, but he's 15-1 on the line. I could definitely see him 3rd or 4th. And kind of to Lee's point, I don't love him here. But I think Pneumatic is a good horse. I think Pneumatic's a horse that give him a little bit more time. He was one of the horses that, if you believe that day at Churchill Downs in the Matt Win when Maxfield won and looped up on the outside, some people think it was a closer-friendly track. I'm kind of ambivalent there. I don't think it really was super sort of closer-friendly, but I can understand the folks that say, well, if that was the case, he was the one that was actually forwardly placed. And I think in the long run, he's the kind of horse that's going to want to sit off of a target and go as opposed to being up there pushing things. So I don't have anything interesting for the Belmont. I wish I did. It's Tiz the Law and Farmington Road for me, but I do believe in Pneumatic going forward.
All right. You poor Matt. He's had to repeat this shtick, and we'll have to repeat it 25 more times between now.
Alabama radio in the morning. We're going to talk about the exact same thing.
Just to you should record it and just play it. And
just play it on loop.
Hold on. Pete, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I got a free roll on the Triple Crown this year because last year was $100. My $100 betting strategy turned into $15,000 for the Derby. My $100 strategy for the Belmont turned into $2,200.
Yeah.
So if you listen last year, you bet $300 and won $17,000. So I have a little bit of a free roll for the Triple Crown. Number 2.
I don't know where you get it from, by the way. I can't tell where
you're. Number 2, and then, so number 2 is Top. You guys mentioned Todd Pletcher. It's not the Belmont. It's the Belmont Stakes by name only. It's a 1 1/8. So there's no Pletcher in the Belmont. That's that. Next.
It's got bullet points.
Win is going to the lead. The 6 there is going, got to go. He's going to sit right behind him. He's going to let him go and sit second. The idea is 16 days, maybe. Bottom line, War of Will. And then War of Will in the Preakness. Mark Cassey did it last year, 14-day layoff, one for fun. Not for fun, 1 by a half, but ran huge, right? So I'm not worried about that. However, I think Pneumatic, I agree with Lee. And as Dad would say, even Lee said it. And I exactly what he said, I have written down already, getting ready for my $100 strategy. I think that's exactly going to happen. Last time out, he was on the inside going head and head. Does not want to do that. Wants to be outside. Got the luck of the draw. Going to set a perfect trip. I think he goes by with an early move. The 1 hangs in there. And, of course, we're rooting for Tiz the Law because we love Jack Knowlton. And if you're using exotics, I think the horse will run 3rd or 4th. Modernist, I think he'll get a piece. Mod off the layoff.
What about, we had a question here about Max Player. Anybody? It's your boy Rosario. Once won the Belmont twice. Again, not the same Belmont. Any interest in Max Player from anybody?
No.
Nothing.
No, I mean, if we're being honest, I go back and I take a look at the field that he ran against that day. It hasn't come back all that strong. He had some distance challenged horses run that day at 1 1/8. There's a part of me that wonders if it were 1.5 miles, would he be here? I don't know. I wonder if they're just taking a shot. Crazier things have happened. It's the Belmont, but I think it's difficult to make him in here.
Yeah, I'm almost inclined, and without trying to be a contrarian, I mean, I really, having watched the Four Lefts replays and also watching Modernist, I mean, I don't think that they're as fast as Tap It to Win. I mean, Tap It to Win, I think, is pretty clearly the fastest horse. He's got the rail. And if you watch the races where he hasn't run well, it's he's wanted to go, and I think Gaffleone has tried to, I think they were trying to get him to rate, targeting races like this where he'd be going longer and wanting him to settle a little bit. He's not a horse who wants to settle. I might actually like him more at 1.5 miles because I think he'd definitely be loose, but I'm pretty sure he'll be loose here too. I mean, not loose, but I don't think he's going to go, yeah.
I mean, Jose Ortiz is on the other speed.
Yeah.
He's at the top.
If they're in it to win it, the only way he can win is to go.
Right.
Yeah.
He can't sit past Tap It to Win and then hold off Tiz the Law and hold off everyone else. And that's just all. I think that's something to keep in mind. And who knows? Maybe he will sit and all of a sudden win by 10. I have no idea. But in all reality, you take a look at what he's done thus far in his career. I think the only chance he has to win on Saturday is to go. And I put it this way: if they take off, I'll look at it and say, "Why'd you enter?" Mm-hmm. I guess it's $1 million race, so maybe you think you can hold on and get a piece. But there were other races for you to run in. If you're going to take off, I would be surprised and a little bit disappointed if that were the tactic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Quick thing, is there any other play on the card, if you've had a chance to handicap yet, that stands out, a price, give us something, because I know this one is sort of, we're all just trying to beat a horse that might just win by 10. Is there any price on the card that any of you guys saw that stands out?
Let me look here. Oh, yeah, I have an interesting pick in the race before that, the grass race.
Jaipur.
The Jaipur presented by America's Best Racing.
That's right.
A horse that I would never pick normally. I'm going to pick Hidden Scroll.
What?
I'm telling you, and I think
you haven't been drinking. You said.
No, that's okay. Take a laugh. That's what makes it fun. Listen, with you, I'm just saying. That's interesting. A pick that I would never pick that. No way I would ever pick him. But in this case, pure sensation, I guess, is the other speed.
Yeah.
And he's 9 years old, and I don't know. And I think Hidden Scroll could sit, or he doesn't have to go to lead. And I just think there's not a lot of speed in the race, so maybe he gets when the closers start coming to close, there's not enough time left.
I like that pick because I feel like Hidden Scroll has just been, everyone's thrown out Hidden Scroll, and Hidden Scroll is going to be a much higher price than Hidden Scroll should be if you look at that race objectively.
Right. Yeah, a nice 47 work on the grass of Belmont, so it's not like it's impossible. And that was the other thing I was going to tell you about Far Left. I know Doug O'Neill's, he works his horses pretty quick, but those Belmont works for that horse are unbelievable. He's definitely going to go to the lead. Unless he breaks bad or something, he's 100%. He's going to go with Johnny V's horse.
I think he'll have a clear lead. And Johnny's not stupid. He's going to perch right outside of him and that's his target.
You think Johnny's going to let him go? You don't think he's going to hold the rail, really?
No, I think he goes right around, sits there like a workout.
They'll come around them like this because the rest of them aren't that fast.
Yeah. Look, if 2 or 3 of them go, I mean, they're just setting it up for Tiz the Law. I mean, it's pointless. I mean, that's what Tiz the Law needs. So
Tiz the Law is too close to a fast pace, and he's got nothing at the end. Who knows? Maybe he's too close. So, I don't know.
I tell you what, the race that I'm most interested in on Saturday at Belmont is that the prestigious state bred N1X race number 7.
Race 7.
Six furlongs on the inner turf. Single Verse, the number 3. I think she's 8-1. She goes out for Robitrass now, first time going out. She hasn't run since middle of November. First start as a 3-year-old, taking on older horses. I like when horses outrun sort of, I don't want to say barn expectations, but they do something that barns don't excel with. Bruce Brown's barn, Bruce Brown's a great trainer, but turf sprint's not his forte. The fact that she ran as well as she did in the second lifetime start, only time she's run on grass thus far, she was loaded in the pocket in behind horses, rounding the far turn. She actually made a big move to the front and just got run down by Ava K's girl. She's going to be on the also eligible list here in this spot. I like the fact that she can be close to the pace if it's moderate, and if they throw it down, she can come from 2 or 3 off of it. Now she goes out for new connections. Santana takes them out. I think she's 8-1 on the morning line. This is, I don't want to say the only horse that I'm interested in betting individually on the day here anyway, but Single Verse would be the one. She could easily run last. She's coming off of a lengthy layoff. She's taking on older horses. I think there's a little bit of ability here, especially at this sort of, let's just say this configuration, six furlongs on turf.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Can I ask you one question? I know he's into the weather. What is the weather report for Belmont Stakes post time Saturday?
Is this question for me?
Is this for me?
Peter Jr.
Oh, I haven't looked.
Oh, wow. One thing. If there are thunder showers, I am definitely going to use Farmington Road because he's a mud lover. So I'm going to use him definitely only on a sloppy track.
The champ, you got anything?
I'm going to be a fan mostly on Saturday. I'm pulling for very strongly No Parole in the sprint. What race is that, Dan? Or
Second.
Race 2, yeah.
Woody Stevens, race 2.
He's a Louisiana bred, owned by a couple of really good friends of mine and trained by a really, really long-term friend, Tom Amos. And Louisiana bred, boy, they don't get many shots at the graded stakes. And I think he's a freak. I mean, I just don't know how good he is, but we'll find out pretty much on Saturday.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just real quick. I mean, I don't want to like take over. I'm curious, Mike. Is there any sort of between he and is it long weekend?
Yeah.
I mean, is there any? Do you have any idea what the connections think of one versus the other?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, I know that Tom thinks very highly of both of them, and he did not want to put them together.
Yep.
So I don't know what the discussions were about who went where. Like one of them's running in California, right, on the same day. Long weekend is running out there, I think.
I don't think he entered in the last Barrera. I expected him to.
Well, that was the plan.
Yeah.
So I know they're going to keep No Parole going short. So.
Okay.
And he is really freaky. We'll see what happens Saturday.
I think that race is great. I know people were bashing it for 5 furlongs. I think it's a great race.
I don't know. There's only one close in the race to 5. That's a handicapping 101. I came up at the bottom. I was shoplifted. I think all the other ones are speed, and that's one that's going to close in the race.
I just don't know that anybody. I don't know that anybody's going to beat No Parole to the lead. I mean, he's really fast. Now, whether he can hang on or not, he seems to almost have another gear sometimes in mid-stretch when you just don't think he does, and it's been very impressive.
Before we go, and because I know I never will have this chance again, I know I've got, in addition to great racing minds here, I've got some great political minds.
No, don't do it.
I want to just read the odds.
I'm gonna tap out right now.
Wait, I just want the vice presidential odds. I want a vice presidential pick here.
Okay. I'll talk about that because I'm heavy on Val Demings. I got in at Val Demings at like 4 cents on the predicted market, maybe 3 and 4, my average. And if she's picked, it's going to be a very nice day in the Chalk household.
I mean, I'm seeing,
and look, it's down to 2. It's down to 2. So I'm covered on Kamala. So I'm good. It's down to 2. It's going to be her. It's going to be Kamala Harris or Val Demings. That's it.
That's it, right? Yeah, because I'm looking at Odds Checker. They've got Susan Rice listed 3rd. That's a little surprising, no?
Trap. That's a trap. Total.
I mean, even Warren 4th, Keisha Lance Bottoms. I mean, it's pretty shocking. I mean, Stacey Abrams, like, 3 months ago was
Stacey Abrams was a 2-year-old champ of vice president for picks. I mean, she was leading, and now she's like, she can't get the distance. I mean, she couldn't get the distance. So,
all right, I'll just to keep it clean, I'll end it with that. But we do have one final request. I want this to be the way we go off the show, fellas up top. We've got a request here. If you don't have a racing form, it's fine. Grab some magazines. And let's get some form pounding against the hand to end the show.
Can you give a stretch run to look at?
I mean, I haven't had success with the video I've played so far, so I don't want to take any chances. Well, Matt can call a race. I've seen Matt call races.
No, please. I call numbers. I can't call a race. One of the most, I would say, most under-respected jobs in all of sports is calling a horse race.
Hey, are you doing the contest tomorrow to benefit the British Cup thing, or
no, we're not going to be on tomorrow. Tomorrow's off, right? As far as unless I missed that, then we'll come back next week, and I think tentatively there's a few more scheduled.
It's been a great idea. I hope y'all raise some money.
It's I mean, going into our last, was it 5,000 something like that? Going into that last one.
That's great.
It's been fun, just kind of riffing for a little bit. So
Do you guys plan on bringing it back next week or in the weeks to come? Or?
Back to our whole slate of.
You want to tell people where they could find that? Just on the Breeders' Cup.
It's on our social channel. On Thursday nights, we have cocktails and conversation at 6 p.m. And then on Fridays, Horseplayer Happy Hour. We change the time. Usually 3 or 4. We start there for a couple hours. Coincides with horseplayers.com. A qualifier for or a feeder into a qualifier for the next day. And then, of course, now we have Dad and Lee have a podcast called the Get Hot, Stay Hot podcast, in which, of course, I'm taking the train tomorrow, and I will be I guess I'll be the host since I have to get a word.
You're the guest and the host.
Okay.
Pete Sr. Pete, you're the official handicapper for Louisiana Downs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Saw that. Yeah. Congrats.
Congrats.
That's awesome.
It's been fun so far. I've been on a couple of days. I tell you, I was nervous the first day I went on camera because it was a 6-horse field. I picked 3 horses. And I'm saying to myself, because the guy's introducing me, and now Peter Rotondo from Staten Island, professional handicapper, him from the show Horseplayers. And I'm saying, if the 3 horses I pick come in 4th, 5th, and 6th, how am I going to go on for the second race? Well, God was good. I had the triple box. And then I was feeling my oats after that. I said, this horse is going to go wire to wire. Both horses won. I was going to lose the race. But it's, I tell you, the guy that calls the race is a very nice guy, John McCary.
Mm-hmm.
He's really nice, very knowledgeable about the horses in Louisiana, Downs, Evangeline, and all these lesser tracks. And he's good. He's a good race call announcer, and I think I'm going to enjoy it.
Mike, I do think there's a segment there that where you teach him Louisiana words, how to say certain words in Louisianan.
Like Evangeline would be listened to.
Well, he said that after I said, I gave my analysis of the first race, he said, you could tell Peter Rotondo's from New York, can't you? I guess, don't sound like you people in Louisiana.
Oh,
phenomenal. All right. Let's give the people what they want. Hey, Shona. You didn't pick that shirt out for him, right? You were making that clear.
I can't believe he's wearing it. Like, I didn't know it existed until I came out and he was already on. So
this is the Tiger King collection.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, what are you gonna do?
All right. Well, you came in just in time for a treat. We're about to end the show with a classic racing program whip to end it. I want to thank Matt, Mike, Pete Jr., Pete Sr., Lee Davis. Thank you for being on tonight. Thanks everyone who tuned in. All right, guys, whip us off.
Gotta go.
Go.